Ermac finally becomes playable next week. Plus, his gameplay trailer is coming very soon. But today, I want to predict which attacks Ermac will have in Mortal Kombat 1. And I'm gonna make some bold claims. We are not playing it safe. Everybody knows he's gonna have the telekinetic slam, but what about his lesser known attacks from past games? That's what I want to talk about to keep things more interesting. Starting off with Ermac's weapon. That's right, in the older games, Ermac did fight with a weapon. And even though it was all the way back in the 3D era, don't forget that Syndel got her weapon in Mortal Kombat 11. And as a result, I think it's very possible that Ermac's weapon is going to return in Mortal Kombat 1. Honestly, I really do think his battle axe is cooler, but since General Shao already has an axe, I think it's more likely that Ermac will fight with his Warhammer instead. However, with all that being said, I think there's going to be a little twist. Instead of holding a physical weapon in his hands, I think Ermac is going to create magical constructs, very similar to what Nightwolf has done in past games with his bow and arrow and his tomahawks. You get the idea. Instead of randomly pulling a giant metal weapon out of nowhere, I think it's more likely that Ermac is going to summon a magical construct of that weapon instead. Now, some of you watching might think I'm crazy for reaching all the way back in the 3D era to find inspiration for attacks, but don't forget that Mortal Kombat 1 is filled with 3D era characters. In fact, it's basically a love letter to the 3D era games, which is why I think it's very likely that Ermac's gameplay will reference that era as well with his attacks. But next up, let's talk about his intro animation, because I think this could also hint at his attacks. If you look closely, you can see Ermac collecting one of his own souls and absorbing it. This could imply that Ermac uses his own souls as a power-up, and this could possibly buff his damage or recover some of his health and so on. You get the idea. Ermac absorbing his own souls during gameplay could make things very interesting, because keep in mind, only one other character in the game right now is able to recover their own health. However, at the same time, this animation also reminds me of Mortal Kombat X, because in that game, Ermac would literally throw his souls at the opponent in order to snare them and then keep the combo going, go for resets, and all that stuff. It was honestly a bit overpowered, but also crazy fun because I loved playing Ermac in Mortal Kombat X. The man had 50/50s for days. And like I've said before in past videos, Ermac's design in Mortal Kombat 1 looks very similar to his costume in Mortal Kombat X, and as a result, I wouldn't be shocked if their gameplay was quite similar in some aspects. In fact, even in story mode, we see Ermac fighting in this same manner. He snares the opponent with his souls and then throws them around like ragdolls. So I'm just saying, if you're a big fan of Mortal Kombat X, then get excited, because it looks like Ermac will keep many of those gameplay mechanics. One of my favorite things about Mortal Kombat 1 is how big the move list is for each character, and as a result, I think it's possible that Ermac could have attacks from the 3D era and Mortal Kombat X and maybe even Mortal Kombat 9. But next up, let's talk about King Jerrod, since he is merged with Ermac and plays a minor role in story mode. I think it's very likely that Ermac will have several of King Jerrod's attacks. But with that being said, what would those attacks even look like? We've never seen King Jerrod fight in the games because he's always been dead before the story mode even starts. And as a result, if we want to have any idea of how King Jerrod would fight, we have to go all the way back to the comics. And we don't see very much, but we can tell that he fights with a sword, shield, and at one point even a bow and arrow. So it could be possible that Ermac will also use attacks like this as well, but once again, they're likely going to be magical constructs and not the literal weapons themselves. And real quick, just think about that for a second. How cool would it be for Ermac to point at the opponent and a flurry of ghostly green arrows just fly down on the opponent and overwhelm them, stabbing them everywhere? That would be so sick. Maybe I'm looking too much into it, and King Jerrod is only for story mode and not actually going to influence Ermac's gameplay, but I'm not giving up on the concept. In fact, I think it's entirely possible that Ermac could have two complete movesets, similar to Shang Tsung and also General Shao. One moveset plays like classic Ermac, and the other moveset fights like King Jerrod. That would definitely be really cool. I love the big move list, and I love when characters have two complete movesets. Now, is it likely to happen? Maybe not, but I'm gonna keep my fingers crossed and stay hopeful, because I think the possibility is definitely there. And like I keep saying on this channel all the time, anything could happen. But next up, it's time for a quick fan theory. Some players believe that Ermac will also fight like Syndel as well, since her soul is also stuck inside of his body, which definitely is an interesting theory and could definitely happen, but like I said in the past video, I personally don't like this idea, mainly because Mortal Kombat 1 Syndel pretty much does have all of her iconic attacks, and as a result, if you give Ermac any of Syndel's attacks, he's going to play similar to Syndel, who's already in the game, unless the 3D era or classic Syndel has attacks that I can't remember, but for the life of me, I can't think of any iconic Syndel attacks that aren't already in Mortal Kombat 1. And as a result, I really don't want Ermac to have Syndel's attacks. Now, that also being said, would it look cool for Ermac's face to change from like scary monster Ermac into King Jerrod and then into Syndel and change the movesets, give him 3 movesets? Would that be really cool? Yes, but also it would be a bit redundant, so I personally don't want it. I'm not saying it's a bad idea or that it would be bad to have in the game, I just personally don't want it. So next up, let's talk about the classic attacks, because I think all of us know which iconic moves are going to return in Mortal Kombat 1, because you just can't have Ermac in the game without these attacks. First up, we have the telekinetic slam, where he grabs the opponent, lifts them up, and then slams them on the ground so hard that they bounce back up into the air, and the combo keeps on going. Of course, that attack is going to return in Mortal Kombat 1. And then on top of that, Ermac is definitely going to have a levitation ability, or just general flight of some kind. Not only do we see it in story mode, but also in pretty much every game, Ermac can fly or at least levitate, so that's going to return too. And also during story mode, we see Ermac firing a ton of projectiles, so it could be possible he's going to be more of a zoner or more of a keep away character, but at the very least, he's going to have a projectile of some kind. Don't forget, it's a popular fan theory that Ermac was originally planned to be on the base roster of Mortal Kombat 1, but because the game was rushed, the developers didn't have time to put him in the game, so he's still in story mode and you can fight his NPC, but he's not actually playable, and also that NPC only has attacks borrowed from Mortal Kombat 11. But my point is, a lot of the attacks we see in story mode are likely going to reflect how he plays in the actual game, including how he throws objects at the opponent. And that's interesting because I don't think Ermac's done that in past games. Yes, he can pick the opponent up, and he can fire his own magic at the opponent, but I don't think he's ever grabbed large rocks from off screen and thrown them at the opponent. But we see this all the time in story mode, which could imply he's going to do something similar during gameplay. I mean, I definitely think it's possible. I can picture right now Ermac reaching off screen and just pulling in a giant rock and smashing it on the opponent with his telekinesis. Maybe not for a basic attack, but definitely during his throw, or maybe during an EX attack, or even during his fatal blow. I could definitely see Ermac grabbing something from off screen and throwing it at the opponent's face, which would be cool because once again, he's never done this in the past games. Oh, and we can't forget the teleport. In literally every Mortal Kombat game in recent memory, Ermac has had the ability to teleport, because a lot of people forget he's not just telekinesis, he also wields dark magic. So of course the guy can teleport. And you know what, real quick, I'm gonna skip ahead to the fatalities. I want his fatality for Mortal Kombat 9 to return, where he shrinks the opponent really tiny and then steps on him, because once again, too many people think that Ermac is just about using his mind to move stuff around. No, no, no. Ermac can also use dark magic. Very similar to General Shao, players tend to forget just how vast Ermac's abilities are. He's not just a mind control dude. He can also shrink the opponent, he can teleport, all sorts of things. He can summon weapons too, he's done that before in some past games, and he can also break mind control and also break other spells that people put on his friends, which he did in Mortal Kombat Deception. But I digress. I guess what I'm trying to say is, I hope Ermac does more than just throw the opponent around. I want to see lots of black magic because that is one more thing he can do. I also want to see a bunch of King Jerrod attacks, because why not? You finally have the guy talking for the first time in a Mortal Kombat game, so why not have his attacks for the first time as well? As you all know by now, I love making these videos interactive, so let me know your thoughts in the comment section down below. Which attacks do you want to see the most from Ermac in Mortal Kombat 1? Do you want to see a throwback reference to the 3D era? Do you want him to play more like classic Ermac in Mortal Kombat 3? Or do you want Mortal Kombat X Ermac? Or do you want something completely new? Make sure to let me know any and all of your thoughts in the comments below, because like I keep saying in all my videos, I truly do read each and every comment, so grab that keyboard and make your voices heard. No matter what the case may be, I'm just happy that Ermac has finally returned in Mortal Kombat 1. I really do think he was meant to be in Mortal Kombat 11 too, but the game was cut short for whatever reason, and he didn't make it onto the roster. At the end of the day, I just hope Ermac is fun. I do not want another Melina situation like in Mortal Kombat 11. I waited so long for that character, then when she finally arrived, she was so boring. Thankfully in Mortal Kombat 1, she's crazy fun, and I want the same thing for Ermac. Please, Elder Gods, just don't let him be bad. Don't let him be boring. That's all I wish for. Thanks for watching, everyone, and I hope you enjoyed. If you did, please leave a like down below. It helps the channel out a ton. And then finish that combo by subscribing and ringing that bell so you never miss any future videos. Make sure to come back next time, and as always, stay underdogs.